minutes are still very, very important. So I don't know whether the seats are still okay as they are, right? They're still okay as they are? Okay, because I think we had moved them behind while the dancers were on stage. So today we're going to have 5 panelists. And I thank you again for creating time to our panelists. Please help me welcome Beatrice Njeri. Beatrice Njeri is a strategic litigation counsel at CRU. We are also going to have a child representative. Who's our child representative? We're going to have a child representative as well. Also help me welcome Winnie Akinyi. She's the outreach manager at HAART. And help me welcome Njeri Mwangi, an investigative reporter with BBC and an activist. And also help me welcome Agnes, a survivor advocate. And before we even jump to this particular panel, I did mention that it was very important for us to also focus on the 1.5-minute video that was played. Those statistics are very, very, very important because they help paint the picture of the scale of the problem that we are dealing with. You know, when I saw that 50 million people have been victims of human trafficking, for me, I was like, in Kenya alone, we're about 50 million. So it's like trafficking all of us. Literally, by the way, 50 million. That is like trafficking the whole of this country. That is the scale of the challenge that we're discussing today. Now, on to the first quiz. What do you think is the estimated number of children being trafficked of the 50 million? What do you think is the estimated number of children being trafficked of the 50 million? Anyone? 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 What do you think is the scale? Just any figure. What figure do you have in mind? Of the 50 million, how many children do you think make a fraction of that number? You say up to 30 million. Another one? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? About 50%. So what is 50 of that? About 25? So let me just get my papers. Thank you. So of that number, to our panelists, of course I wouldn't even want HAART to talk about. We're talking about 12 million children who need us to protect them from harm. 12 million children, right? For some of us, or all of us who are tweeting, remember the hashtag is Act Against Child Trafficking and Africa Children Summit. Don't forget to tweet. Don't forget to follow HAART Kenya on all the platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Share this conversation so that people can join us in terms of the commitments and the policies and the conversation that we are having in the room today. Yes. Worldwide, globally, yes. Okay, so we have 2 more, right, to crack our heads. So of the number that we are talking about, so the majority, who do you think are the majority who are identified as victims? Who do you think are the majority? Who do you think are the majority who are identified as victims? Actually, this is how you are responding to answers in class. Me, I'm worried how we performed. Who do you think are the majority? No, category, thanks. Category. We're talking about category. Is it women? Is it children? Is it young men? Who do you think are the majority? One. It's children at 43%, actually in the African continent. And how many forms of human trafficking are we aware of? How many? How many forms are we aware of? How many? How many forms? Okay, which one do you know? Which one do you know? Because now if you talk about how many, which one do you know? Let's just now go straight to the point. Which one do you know? Please, let me know. Slave trade. Where do we categorize that? Because if you're trafficked, as a slave, it's to do something, right? So where do we categorize that? Which one do you know? Because clearly the forms are not cutting it. Which one? Okay, just name one.
The national one is the one that occurs in Kenya. Like the current one that is trending, a child is being sold from Western at, is it 4,000? 400,000. That is the national one. What we have the international one that transcends our borders. Our children are trafficked and exploited in our neighboring country like Tanzania. Or they come from the other way.
Okay. Thank you very much. So let's appreciate ourselves for trying to even think about these issues. And that is why it's very important to have this panel, because they're going to highlight some of these issues. And it's why I'm going to actually start with Winnie. Already you can hear the challenges we have in terms of even the forms. You can already hear we're struggling to figure out the one that I know, the one that I saw in the news, where does that one even fall, literally. But Winnie, when you talk about human trafficking, who is a trafficker to start with? Who is a trafficker?
So, for Winnie, a trafficker is a person who takes a child from a place of, let's say, safety and puts them at a place of preys on their insecurities, poverty. So for Winnie, might not be resonate with everybody, but a trafficker is a person who takes a child from a place of safety through the means of deception, fraud, abduction for the purposes of exploitation. It might be for sexual exploitation, so we have children who are locked up in brothels and houses and sexually exploited. We have those ones who are working in mines. Right now we have quite a number of mines in Kenya for gold, in Kakamega and Migori. We have quite a number of children who can see, when you go to places like Mudurwa or Kamkunji area, you'll see quite a number of shops. So they are working instead of going to school. So this act deprives them of their rights as children.
Thank you. I think it's important to set the context, right? And what are some of the different forms of trafficking that are very common and prevalent in Africa?
Currently in Africa, we have forced labor.
We have forced labor.
We have sexual exploitation and sex tourism. Along the coast of Kenya, we have a lot of sex tourism and sexual exploitation in major cities across the country. We have forced begging, which is a trend that picked up in the last 5 years. We've seen quite a number of children brought from across the border to Kenya to be beggars. We have organ removal, which the numbers are quite low because most of the time the victims do not survive to tell the story. So those are the ones that we've noted.
Thank you so much. Agnes, I want to come to you. What are some of these common causes of child trafficking?
I think poverty and homelessness is the cause of all that. Tukikuja kwa wale wamekosa makao, utapata wengi wanaorandaranda mitaani, wanahangaika. Ni rahisi sana approach kumtumia vibaya. Tukikuja kwa umaskini, utapata wengi wenye wanatumia vibaya hapa, wanatumia vibaya kwa sababu wanakosa vitu mingi kwa familia. Labda unapata mtoto angetaka kusoma kusoma juu ako ana ile hali ya kupata pesa kwa familia wanaojiwezi vitu kama hizo zinafanya unampata mtoto anaingia kwa utapata anaoma hapo. Vifo ni mingi hapa kwa sababu ya kwa familia, unapata mtoto anahangaika sana anashindwa afanye nini. Saa hizo ndio kosa zinafanya huyo mtoto.
Asante sana. Umesema umaskini. You know, you've spoken about poverty being one of also the main causes, and also venye inafanya watoto pia wale wanataka kusoma hawezi hata pata ile masomo. You're also bringing up the issue of education. So for families, zile familia za wale watoto ambao wamekuwa trafficked, hizi familia zinaweza support aje hawa watoto? How can families support, you know, children who've been trafficked? Wanaweza support vipi?
By conducting helplines for help, the social work, counseling, na pia providing them with love.
So umesema providing them with love.
Conducting the social workers for help.
Social workers as well.
Counseling.
For counseling. And then there's a point umesema mbeleni pia. There's a point you also mentioned.
Conducting helplines for help. Yeah.
Asante sana. I want to come to you. Just listening to what she's saying. So thank you very much. I'll just ask you to also introduce yourself. I think just being notified, there's a change of plan. Listening to what she's saying, so before even today's event and even hearing about the work that HAART is doing, did you know much about human and children trafficking? Now, for adults, what can we do to actually prevent child and human trafficking?
My name is Stephanie Oyola. I'm from Radio of Mercy Secondary School, South Bay. And yes, I've heard about human trafficking out there, both for adults and children. Like the one for organ removal is mostly common. We saw the pictures that were posted. I think that the measures that adults, even children, should put towards addressing the issue of human trafficking. One of them is by one, like she said, that one for poverty. That one applies to the government. When they help the people out there by providing employment for people, then the trafficking will be less. Another point, I think that is a cause of human trafficking in other countries, not specific in Kenya. Like let's say in Congo, during wars, the soldiers will be overright, then they'll come for the children. So that one is part of trafficking because it is against their will and they're depriving their rights. So the government, I think, is the one that needs to put an initiative in checking out of what is going on out there. Yes.
Thank you so much. You bring that out so beautifully, guys. Thank you so much. So I like that you're already talking about at the government level, you know, at the institution level, what can be done for children who are listening to you today, and for children who are in the room today. What advice would you give them in terms of how they can also protect themselves from exploitation, you know, from also just being vulnerable to people who want to traffic them? What advice can you give children who are listening to you?
The advice I can give the children out there, first of all is to keep themselves busy. You know, once you're busy with the studies and everything that is important and relevant for you, you won't be that vulnerable outside for everybody to notice you. And then the second thing, if you feel that the area you live in, there's not enough security, I would advise that you stay in your houses, and maybe if you're going somewhere, you go with an adult, someone you know that can protect you. The other one for children, I guess, is that, let's say at home the thing that you're getting is not enough. There are non-governmental organizations out there that can really help, and I would think that maybe when they approach the children, they should be willing to accept their help so that they are not able to be taken out there, for example, proposing, that is, they're being forced to beg out there. Yes, I think those are the measures that children can put.
Guys, like I said, you know, the way the dancers were reminding me what I was doing in my 20s. She just reminded me, what was I doing, you know, in my teenage years, you know? I'd have been a child advocate activist right now. Thank you so much. Jerry, you know, you did an investigative on children trafficking. What stood out the most for you? And why did you even choose to do an investigative piece on children trafficking?
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for being here. I think for me, living in Nairobi, I've grown up in Nairobi all my life, and I have seen children on the streets continuously. But over the past few years, they have become more and more. And I kept seeing these disabled children and kept wondering, where do these kids come from? Am I the only one who's seeing them? Where are they coming from? Why are they in the streets? And then on checking and talking to them, I realized, you know, you can tell Kenyans, I mean East Africans, maybe Africans, we can generally tell an accent where it's coming from. You can say this is Ugandan, this is Tanzanian. And I could tell their accent was Tanzanian, but they didn't talk much and they were not allowed to talk much. So my investigation really was to find out where are these children coming from and why are they in the streets. Yeah.
Thank you so much, because you know, you are a reporter, you are an activist, and also you work in the non-governmental sector through the organization that you represent, and also in the platforms where you are able to shine a spotlight on some of these issues. So as NGOs, how do we mainstream these issues in our media platforms? How do we ensure that we are talking about them? Because sometimes also what you don't see, you don't discuss. You know, so you find that we have a very limited pool of issues we discuss, because at the end of the day, when you look at our news pieces, perhaps, you know, the political issues will top up, and then some of these very grave matters will probably form, you know, those passing stories. You know, in other news, then you see like a piece, 1 minute, you don't even get to listen to the context, right? So how do we mainstream these issues in our media platforms? And when I say media platforms, not only television, but also on social media. For someone who perhaps is not even following the work that HAART is doing, how do you engage with these issues?
I think for starters, there's a lot of NGOs that are working with children, but I feel like they work in silos, because we are doing similar work, yet we are serving the children, those who are working with children, but then we're working in silos and in small spaces. We need to find a way to work together and, I guess, figure out what is the enemy that we are fighting. So if we're talking about child trafficking, what do we as a consortium of organizations, what do we need to do about that? Then that way, instead of working in your silo and affecting a small population, then working together gives us a whole lot more power to reach more people and even to engage the government to do what they're supposed to do. Because ideally, NGOs exist and thrive in the absence of government. Where governments thrive, then NGOs do not have much work. So since these NGOs are thriving, then we need to be holding our government to account to do some of the things that make us thrive. I don't think the work of NGOs, I would want my NGO to be phased out, because we have no work left to do, right? Because that means the government is doing what they should be doing, and so when we go to the office, we're like, so what do we do today, you know? But so long as we come to the office and we spend our nights in the office, it means that the government has really decided, what NGO wafanye tu hiyo kazi, yeah? Everything that is basic, from water to medicine to hospitals to schools, that means they've stepped away. And so as NGOs, we really need to come together to lobby the government to do what they're supposed to do, and then also to empower the public about why we exist and what we do. Because unfortunately, NGOs are seen, but also the government takes money is given grants, yeah? So as NGOs are also given grants to make the work possible, we need to empower the public about, you know, human rights violations, about their rights, about accountability, about good governance. Because the more we distance ourselves from what government is doing, really that gap just keeps growing. And if we can't hold our leaders to account, we still vote them in. There's a budget that is supposed to take care of the things that are making our organizations thrive, right? So we need to work with government to build our country, because the government will not build it for us, and we can't do it on our own. If I try to repair a road where I live, imagine I get arrested. I tried to fill in stones because where I drive through is really bad. So they had poured some stones by the roadside, but it had been months. So I told my kids, kwani iko nini? So we just put these stones in these holes. And then I got summoned. I was told that's not my job. I'm like, but these stones have been here, and I'm the one driving on this road. So even as much as we citizens can do something about some things, then the government, I said, then let them come and pull me out of my house because of fixing the road with my bare hands, because these stones have been here for long. Yeah? So we must find ways as the public, as citizens, to be active citizens in this country to build our country, because that way we bring the politician, our leaders closer. And it doesn't mean that we have to look for the president. Let's work with the MCAs, the ones that we know where their offices are, the ones we know where they live. Well, sometimes they move, but I mean, we know them. Let's start from there, work together, because that's the only way we're going to build this country.
Thank you so much. You know, it's interesting that you're talking about accountability and being active citizens and being someone because you're being told that is not your work, you know. Beatrice, I just want to bring you in as a strategic litigation counsel, even because of what Njeri is saying. You know, in this city, the number of times you hear the law is very clear. I'm telling you, and anytime you're with a lawyer, the law is very clear. Let me tell you, even if they don't expound on the law, you know, you're left wondering, okay, where is that clarity? You're a strategic litigation counsel. So what laws exist to actually protect children against human trafficking? And which are some of these countries that have not ratified the Palermo Protocol, right? And what does that mean for children in those countries?
Okay, so perhaps I could begin from the Kenyan context, which is a bit more familiar to us. And there are quite a number of laws that are in place to protect children. I could begin from the Sexual Offences Act, which would perhaps deal with aspects of From there, we have a new Children's Act. Who knows about the new Children's Act of 2022? Yes, it has a raft of measures that can protect children from trafficking, abuse, and other forms of exploitation for children. We also have the African Charter on Children's Rights. That's now at the international level. And also the Palermo Protocol, which has a very long name, and that I will not bore you with, but the intention of the protocol is to prevent, suppress, and punish human trafficking. I will not forget to mention our constitution, which is the supreme law of the land in Kenya, that has a raft of human rights that also include children and protections for them. So in terms of the Palermo Protocol, as Madam Claire said in her opening remarks, there are about 181 countries. In Africa, most of the countries have ratified the protocol or accepted it, meaning it is part of their laws and part of the measures to protect children. However, I think about 3 or 4 countries in Africa are yet to do that. That's Somalia, South Sudan, Tanzania, and I forget one more. But those are the countries that are yet to ratify. Now, what that means for those countries, or for the children in those countries, is that it becomes difficult first to hold states accountable for what they're supposed to do, and for specifically protecting children, as Mr. Tony was saying, that our primary objective or responsibility to children is to protect them. So it becomes difficult to hold states accountable for lack of protecting their children, because we don't have a tool or a law that they have accepted responsibility and the mandate to protect their children. The other challenge is that because we had human trafficking or child trafficking is also cross-border, not just within our borders as a country, it also happens between the borders of 2 countries. It makes it difficult for cooperation between countries in combating child trafficking, so that there is not a method of cooperation between those countries and what they are supposed to do. So, for example, if Njeri was speaking about the children coming from Tanzania to Kenya, and Tanzania is not a signatory to the Palermo Protocol, what does it mean for those children in terms of even repatriating them, ensuring in the first place that those children do not leave those borders, and holding that country accountable for when the children leave their borders and come to Kenya and are forced into begging, which is a human rights violation. So it means that there's lack of protection for children, there's lack of state accountability.
Thank you. Still echoing what more needs to be done when it comes to accountability. Winnie, I want to get back to you, because we're already discussing some of the challenges as relates to human trafficking. Given the vast work that you're doing, even the campaigns that you oversee, what are some of the biggest challenges, especially children face after they've been rescued or after they've escaped? And even just wondering, for an amazing organization like HAART, how can we better support the work that HAART does to ensure that they push even harder when it comes to ending all forms of human trafficking? What are some of these gaps, and how can we even step in as institutions, as donors, as citizens as well? So first of all, beginning with the challenges, and then also some of these gaps, how can we step in?
So one of the biggest challenges children face is the rejection by family members and the society. So we've had quite a number of cases we've rehabilitated, but we cannot reintegrate or reunite with their families because they do not want to be part of these children's lives, especially children living with disability. The other issue is, let's say, fear of those in authority or those they consider as guardians. So some of them will tend to keep quiet and not speak about it at all, as they think keeping quiet is equal to protecting their family members. And also the effects of trauma. That is one thing. Each child reacts differently when exposed to different traumas. So that is one of the things that getting to know and understand the needs of this child is an issue, even for us as frontline workers. How do you support somebody if you're not well equipped with the tools and the know-how on what they are facing? And
how does HAART support the victims or survivors that we are talking about? Because you've already outlined, rejection, the trauma. How does HAART step in to bridge that gap?
So HAART partners with different stakeholders to conduct rescues. So we have quite a number of partnerships with the children's officers. We have law enforcement to help us with the access to justice and also the reporting aspect of it, because rescues are quite risky. For HAART, the first thing that we do is to offer psychosocial support or psychotherapy. for a child, before you conduct any intervention, they have to see a counselor, a clinical psychologist, just to know what are some of the underlying issues, what are some of their triggers, so you know how to act and how to respond to their needs. We have a shelter. So during your time when you're meeting and you're integrating and rehabilitating that particular person, you're able to do it in a place of safety. So shelter is a need. As much as HAART offers a shelter, we call most stakeholders to support movement and this act. Let's have shelters. Let's make the laws easier for the organization to register shelter, run shelter, and definitely ensure they protect and safeguard the rights of these children. We can have as many organizations as we want, but if you're not looking into the interest of the child, then we're not doing much.
Thank you so much for capturing that beautifully. Agnes, I want to get back to you and to our dear panelists. Please remind me your name. Stephanie, right? Agnes and Stephanie, I want you to speak to when we are doing campaigns, wakati tunafanya zile campaigns za kumaliza children trafficking. You know, tunataka hizi campaigns. What are some of the best platforms where we can do these campaigns? What are some of the best spaces and places where we can do these campaigns, either for children, either for the adults, right? I want both of you to speak to that. Hizi campaigns tunaweza zifanya wapi? Ili zifikie watoto, ili zifikie watu wazima effectively. Shuleni, in schools. Okay.
Shule babu kufundishwa na pia hapo ya wanafunzi.
Okay, I don't know why. Able to jaribu to wacha tujaribu your microphone so that we can get your response correctly. Tujaribu tu alafu tuweke karibu.
Sawa, mimi shule.
Hapo sawa.
Nasema shule kwa sababu watoto wengi wanaenda shule, hapo wanaweza fundishwa, na hapo ndio utapata group ya watoto na kuwaeleza kuhusu child traffic. Na pia makanisani, kwa sababu kanisani utaenda utapata wazazi wao na watoto wenyewe. Kuna ile main service, wakati unaweza ongelesha wazazi waeleze kuhusu hii child traffic, na pia kwa watoto unaweza waeleza during Sunday school service.
Thank you so much. I like how you're bringing it out. You know, I need to challenge even people in my church, surely. We know we don't discuss these issues even in church. How many of us have ever heard about human trafficking issues in church? Be truthful. How many of us? See. I'm just seeing like just about 3 hands, and I'm sure those 3 hands is because those are children rights activists who've ensured those conversations are mainstreamed in church, right? Thank you so much for bringing out that point in terms of shule, the schools, and the church as well, and even the Sunday school, right? Thank you so much. Stephanie, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, you see, the children in this generation,
yes,
they like entertainment and fun. So when we hold like huge seminars and then involve them there, they'll think that there'll be plenty of entertainment or things like that. Now after that, you as the people of HAART, you announce to them and maybe create more awareness about what is going on out there and how they are not safe, and also the social media platforms, that is the internet. Most of this generation, we like phones and things. So when we post things like this, it will bring fear into us, and then we'll watch over ourselves even more. And then that one for schools, to put more emphasis on that. You see, like that one for HAART run and those runs and walks. Children are usually very interested in those, especially teenagers. So they'll be like, they'll go interact with others. So when they know they're going to interact with others, we'll create awareness to them and tell them of the dangers that is going on out there. And also in churches, they're not that much because nobody will go to church and expect that they'll announce to them about human trafficking. So at home, the advertisements that take place, you can advertise about human trafficking and maybe create like a theme song that will be exciting so the children will be informed more and know more about what is going on out there. Yes.
Guys. To the HAART team, I hope you're already creating a position for when Stefan finishes school. Please, do not have anyone else design those campaigns. For when Stefan finishes school, please, I hope there will be a position. Stefan, right? I hope there'll be a position, please. Thank you so much for your thoughts. And it's very true in terms of the power of the media, the power of social media platforms, and where even majority of the citizens are spending time, you know, in terms of it being a source of information for them and all kinds of information. And also targeting children from those platforms, because we've seen how the influence even TikTok has on children. So Snapchat, you know, all those platforms. So how do we leverage on those platforms? And we will definitely, you know, need to co-create with children because they understand what would be appealing to another child. In terms of the runs, you know, like the Matter HAART run that you've spoken about, I don't think I personally have seen a run about human trafficking. I don't think I have. I think that is brilliant. Literally, I think it's brilliant. I have not seen a run like that, or I have not participated in any run like that, but I'd love to sign up to run towards ending children trafficking and human trafficking. So thank you so much for even infusing ideas on this panel. I'm about to just wrap up this panel with a call to action, and I'll probably just take either one or two or three comments from the audience. I just want to circle back to you, Njeri, because we're still talking about children. On the piece that you did, when you released that piece, were there any measures taken? You know, did it push for any structural changes? And even for the survivors that you had highlighted, were they supported in any way? Do you have any example in terms of, you know, the survivors you captured in the investigative piece that you did?
So initially, when the story came out, there was a lot of action. Like, wow, a lot of action. Mm-hmm. There was raids in Kariobangi, and I think from the night that we did the raid, we got about 13 children. Now, the gap that exists is that when these children are taken, first they are disabled. There's no facility that can house them. Police stations have no facility for disabled people. Okay, so even taking them to a safe place that would have been the police station in holding for the night until they were taken to a safe place the following day, that was a challenge. But then we managed to get a children's home for disabled children that took them in. But then for me, that's where everything, I was expecting things would continue that way, but for me, that's where it kind of hit a wall. Because then the lady who took them in, now they became her responsibility. So trying to reunite them with their families back in Tanzania, some were taken, but the main subject of my story had been enslaved for, 8-10 years? So he came when he was about 12, 14 years, and we found him when he was in his early 20s, 22, 24, yeah? So he's considered an adult. But he does not have papers to prove that he's Tanzanian. But we know he's not Kenyan. So the Kenyan government are like, oh, no, he's not ours. The Tanzanian government are like, oh, no, he's not ours. And so to date, he's still at the home, luckily. And the home was, you know, taking care of him, teaching him how to use his hand, just making him feel like he can do something, and which he does. And he gets paid for it as well. Okay, so in terms of getting him to a place of safety, even for feeling that, you know, I'm not a thing, I am a human being. I can do something, I can be productive. And seeing him smile and laugh and be with other children and doing the same kind of work and feeling productive like a human being. Yeah, for me that was the greatest win. But now the fact that he has not been able to be taken back home, it's been a challenge because The government of Tanzania won't give him papers. The Kenyan government would give him papers. So it's in between there. So in terms of action, that's what happened. Then the trafficker, good thing he was arrested at the time, and he was sent to, he was taken to court, and he was sentenced to 30 years in jail. So that's one trafficker down, okay? And that's something to celebrate, because then it sends a signal. Anyone else, wewe na wengine kama wewe, you know, you and anyone else trying to do anything like this is what awaits you if we catch you. So it becomes a deterrent because it's a punitive measure. But how much work is being done out there to bring perpetrators, to catch them? Yeah, how much work is being done to save these children, because the complex that I counted almost 40 children at 5 in the morning getting out, that complex is still there. Those kids are still there. Yeah? I am just a journalist, a single journalist who works in a team of journalists. What can we do? We're not law enforcers.
Yes.
Yeah? Someone talked about legal. We're not law enforcers. What can we do? I can go there, can document every morning how many kids come out of that place, go to another complex, do the same. But at the end of the day, whose job is it? It's not my job, I throw it to the lawyers. Oh no, it's not my job, I throw it to the government. Oh no, it's not my job, I throw it to NGOs. No, it's not my job. So whose job is it? Someone told me once that, and it's what you started with, I think, when we started, that a country, I dare say a continent, that does not take care of its children, disabled, even just children, they don't have to be disabled, but takes care of its children, I dare say orphans and widows, will never thrive. It doesn't matter what we do. We will never go far. Because if we can't take care of the people that need help the most, then what are we doing? What makes us wake up and go and just do things for me? Yeah? Yet, when I drive to wherever I'm going, I see homeless people, I see these disabled children who have been brought. They did not bring themselves to the streets. Somebody brought them, and somebody's taking them in the evening. Are our police blind? Don't they see these things? Is the judiciary blind? Do they not know that there are people who are behind these things that should be sent to jail, that should be stopped? So for me, I'm left with many questions. But even in the small wins, the one perpetrator we put behind bars, that's as many children as he would have affected, as many families as he'd have affected, that he will not affect again, that he does not have a chance to change their lives in that way again.
Thank you so much. I want to bring in the audience in terms of, any comments or any just 2 quick questions that we might have for the panel. I already have received a bit of just a few questions from the children in the room. I'm telling you, children are outshining all of us today. Like literally, they are outshining all of us today. So next time I'll just request the HAART team so that I can also bring my child to this session. I think it's important for them to start understanding these matters at a very early age. Beatrice, as I welcome the audience comments and questions, Njeri is saying she already did her part. The media has already highlighted some of these issues. What then, what are the gaps then in terms of enforcing these laws? Because you did say there are a couple of laws, literally, when it comes to children protection, and you went ahead to even outline from the Sexual and Offences Act, the Charter, on children. We're talking about the Palermo Protocol and about 4 countries that haven't ratified the protocol. What then are the gaps? So that even after I do my part, because once I leave here, I also need to understand, as a citizen, how do I support this work? What are the gaps? What are the legal gaps?
Okay, well, the legal gaps, we could talk about implementation. Let's talk about the gaps with us ourselves first. As Njeri said, she did her part within the bigger scope.
Yes.
And using whatever platform she had. I almost started thinking about changing churches, because in our church they don't talk about it, and I want to go to a church that talks about it. And I now even reflected when Stephanie was talking about it, what are the small acts that we are doing? So for example, the dance that Angaza dancers did here, why can't we convert it to a TikTok and educate people about human trafficking, for example? So it's the small acts that each and every one of us is doing to contribute to human trafficking. That neighbor of yours who you have seen has employed a person who looks underage. What have you done about it within that neighborhood and that apartment. Even if you don't know the legal chain that exists, you know Amzewa Nyumba Kumi, you know the chief. Have you told them about it? And leave it to them. Ama wewe umesema mambo ya kwa neighbor wangu mimi sitaingilia. That is how child trafficking will continue to thrive if we do not do our small individual acts as citizens. Now, moving on to the legal gaps, and as Njeri was highlighting, one of the things that exist and that are difficult to hold governments accountable to is they will always complain or state that they have budgetary limitations. So, for example, in the feature that Njeri is talking about, they were able to rescue children, but there is no shelter. And unless in the last few months there has been one, I do not know of any government-run shelter for victims of child trafficking, sex trafficking, or sexual exploitation, or any sort of those things. So the implementation mechanism is still quite lacking, and I struggle to understand why, because now we even have more levels of government. There is the national government, there are county governments, there are initiatives that the governments could do. Even the MCA, the member of county assembly, I don't know what would stop him, because there is no law that stops him from supporting an initiative around child trafficking or other human rights violations, or even initiating a shelter. They build schools, they build other facilities. Why shouldn't they build a shelter? But also in terms of the legal gaps, the implementation becomes quite a challenge. And I will speak now as a legal practitioner, because my end will be at when Jerry has covered a story and those people have been arraigned in court. I will probably be in court advocating for the justice of victims. There will be a lawyer for the trafficker who is also entitled to justice and who has rights per the Constitution. There will be the director of public prosecutions who will be prosecuting the case, but he will only be doing it on the basis of the investigations done by the police. Then there's also the role of the judiciary. They can only deal with what is brought before them and the evidence and all that. So if the trafficker is not charged under the counter trafficking in persons and is probably charged with, I don't know, kidnapping of a child or other different offenses that are not child trafficking or human trafficking related, then that will be a gap. And so the education needs to continue with our stakeholders, because the holding accountable is very difficult and entails a chain of actors, and we must all act hand in hand. But remember, the lawyer is paid for the money, and they must defend even the traffickers, because they have a right to justice as well. So it continues to be very difficult, especially for the victims, because for them, they will not be mindful about the rights of the victims, re-traumatizing them, and seeking truth and justice. For them, they're paid to defend a particular person, which is a right that the other person has, but then it becomes very difficult for victims. So it's still, we keep saying in NGO language, it's a multi-sectoral approach in terms of implementation and closing the gaps, but the buck stops with the government.
Okay, and when we do our call to action, I'll just have you also tell us, what can I do? At the end of the day, I think when we leave this room, it's important for us to ask ourselves, what can I do? Like you said, even you wanted to leave church. Even me, I think my pastor is not ready for me this Sunday, this weekend, right? So we have a question from actually a child in the panel, not in the panel, in the audience, and they've asked, how can we curb the so-called state-sponsored human trafficking? And there's another question, and I know we've answered some of them, but they're also asking about how do you mentally and psychologically prepare them for a new chapter? Like, how do you prepare them for a new chapter? Maybe you can just briefly re-emphasize on that. And then we have the third one on regardless of the NGOs, agencies, and institutions that come together in advocacy against human trafficking, do they conduct these advocacies in the most remote areas where most humans are endangered, or is it just urban? I think still, Winnie, you could speak to that. I mean, we are gathered here by HAART, so would love to also know the advocacies that also HAART does. Do they take place in the most remote places in this country, and even how can we push those advocacies in areas where people are the most vulnerable? And I just want to see, do we have any comments, question? Comment, question? I'll ask either Winnie or someone else. Oh, sure. So, comment, question. Do we take the question and then we respond once? Is that okay? Amma, you want to respond first? Sorry? Okay, so the panel is saying we respond to these ones, then now we just take the fresh questions, and then we can now bring the conversation to a close. So let's start with you, Winnie, and then anyone else can take the question. Agnes, Stephanie, Jerry, anyone can take the question on how do we curb the so-called state-sponsored human trafficking. And what is this even when you talk about state-sponsored human trafficking? Winnie.
So I'll skip about the state-sponsored human trafficking. I can hand it over to anybody in the panel or in the audience who can respond. But I'll respond to the last two. The first one, how do you prepare a child for integration or repatriation? So what we do at HAART, we have the initial assessment just to see if the client or the child, whom we refer to that particular setup as a client, needs more counseling sessions or not. And that is determined by a trained psychologist. Not I can't do it. So somebody else who is well equipped to do it will be the one to conduct the assessment. Before we reintegrate or reunite our child with their families or their next of kin, we have an exit therapy session to know their thoughts and feelings towards these particular processes. And during the stages of reintegration, we conduct a home visit by a caseworker or a social worker, and later on involve the child into their findings and to give us their own view on what we found out, because at times you go and the perpetrator is the mother. So you have to come back and say, this is what I found. Do you know them? What are relations before you take them back? Because you want to make sure when you are taking back a child to a situation, they are safe. One of the reasons why they left those places, some of the reasons they know, some they don't. But they can give you a little insight that maybe you couldn't see during that particular activity. So psychosocial support is an ongoing process. It's not something that happens once and then you said you are healed, move on. It's something that will happen for you and your family members. When we go to several, depending on the situation, we can recommend for a family counseling session or a therapy session where all the family's members are brought on board to understand the triggers of the child, or even some of the triggers of the family, and how to best respond in those situations. So they are more independent. They don't have to rely on you to give them guidance all the time, but they're able to know what is the most effective way of responding. So some of these skills have kept with the families over time. It's not something that happens once.
Super. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so the second question,
on the advocacies in the
yes,
rural areas.
So HAART not only works in Nairobi, we work in around 14, 15 counties across the country. So Nairobi is just one of them. We have Kajiado County, we have Machakos, we have Western Kenya. We worked in several counties, and we are trying to see, based on the statistics that we get, depending on the number of clients we have, where are the hotspots. So that is where we target our activities. So the location that we are in are determined by the data that we've collected over the years.
Thank you very much. Do you want to respond to the state-sponsored human trafficking?
I'm finding it quite challenging to respond to that question because we don't have the context, and we have to be very careful because they've indicated it's state-sponsored. Unless they give us a little more of context, and the contextual information, and then we are able to see how to tackle the question. So maybe you could take another round as we identify where the question came from.
Sure. So the context and data to just inform the first question so that our panelists are able to respond to it effectively. So I did see a hand that side. Okay. Oh. Yes. And I've seen even on Zoom, our children are very active, you know. Thank you. Any other child? Let me tell you, I just feel like I can take all these children. You know, they just, like literally, please. Do you want to just speak?
Yes.
Yes. Please tell us your name and then shoot the question.
Yes, my name is Marlon. And I'm a child of spina bifida. It's a type of disability that I was born with. And my question is, how can we stop traffic in, they transport children with a disability, takes them to another place, be their servant, and how can we stop that thing? That was my first question. Thanks.
Let's appreciate our children. So you're saying, how can we stop the trafficking of children with disability? Is that your question? Thank you very much.
My name is Natasha Wanja. I'm from Joshua Orbit. My first question is, being with a disability does not make you feel that you're not needed. So how can you make people with disability feel like they deserve?
Thank you. We have another child listening to us online, Michelle Klazid from Malaysia. She wants to know, where are the children survivors taken after they are rescued?
Okay. Let's appreciate the children on Zoom. Imagine, you've just stayed on for this whole conversation. To the Zoom audience, we appreciate you, we see you, and thank you for engaging. Yes.
My name is MC Akalo. I come from City Carton. And my question is, what is conflict resolution?
What is conflict?
Resolution.
I tell you.
My name is Michael Njuguna. I'm from City Carton. I live with him. You know, sometimes when the traffickers are taken to the courts, sometimes they pay bribes. How can we stop that bribes? Because when they pay, they are released and they continue trafficking.
We have to invest in our children. I don't think we've been doing a good job, because if they're discussing corruption and bribes, if someone is talking about corruption as a child, it just tells you we need to do more, right? So it's not a conversation that children should be having while they're studying, and we have expectations on them excelling in school. Have we taken from the children? Have we? Good. So I saw hands. Let's start with this row, and then this row. So that row, and then we come to this row.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Margaret Mwajuma, a teacher at Orbit. Okay, I normally say the sages never cajoled us when they say that experience is the best teacher. So being that actually also work in a children's home, I've actually noticed that, sometimes you normally see that one finger points at the parents, kith and kin, but do you also look at the children? Because one thing is that, I'm a widow, and, the kids sometimes feel the way we're suffering. For example, because I lost my husband in the year 2009, and when I look at my little boy called Cecil, and sometimes he sees me toiling and moiling, passing through all those trials and tribulations, you find him telling me, Mom, I know that you're suffering, yet I'm in school, you actually have all these financial constraints, you cannot pay. Mom, why can't I just do something so that at least we can put something on the table? So what I'm trying to say here, just to, in a nutshell, the one thing as a teacher, counseling is very important, very, very important, because, despite the fact that we guys are passing through all those trials and tribulations, we know very well that it's our fatigue. It's we people to work hard so that at least we can help these children. Yeah, and then also on the part of what you call peer pressure. Peer pressure, I've also noticed is very, very vital, and it's quite prevalent because you find that the kids sit together. And, little did you know, you as a parent, that this kid has decided to be a sexual worker, especially where I do reside at Kayole. You end up asking some kids, where did the rain start beating? Who told you to do this? That, well, I wanted to join LGBTQ so that at least I get some money. You see, the kids also have noticed that they also want, I'm sorry to use the word greedy, is that they really want to buy expensive things. Yeah, so they want all those kinds of things. So as parents, it is not easy, especially the kids, we call them the millennials. It's not very easy to get the tricks, but what can we do? They are our kids, and as I say, a lioness never bites her cubs. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Mariana. I run an organization called Missing Child Kenya. And part of a lot of the work that we do involves children who have gone missing, been trafficked, and we put them out on alerts. Mine is just to congratulate Agnes and just tell you you're very brave. Survivor-led movements within this sector are becoming increasingly important. But it takes quite a lot for somebody to sit there and say what they have gone through. And she's speaking for many other people who are very scared and they're afraid to come out. So Agnes, let's please just give her a clap to encourage her.
Thank you.
Secondly, I'd just also like to say, while we are also looking at, she has spoken about one finger and then other fingers on us. So within our sector as child practitioners also, we have also become conveyors of this trend. And what I mean is, increasingly there's a trend on orphanage trafficking. A lot of people are opening up children's homes, not with good intention. And so they keep children there, do not reunite them with their families, and you find that these children kept there. The best place for a child is not within an institution, unless circumstances drive otherwise. So I'm happy that within this sector also we are pushing for that, to look at what does institutionalization for some of our children mean, and who is taking that effort to ask, how many children are registered within this institution? Have we tried family reunification? And then we'll say, if we lack family reunification, then this is the best place for them, because people are collecting money in the name of keeping children and not reuniting them with family. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Very, very, very important conversations, because I'm pretty sure majority of us always plan as groups, as a church, as young people, as a team to go visit orphanages, but we don't think about these questions behind the scenes in terms of, okay, why did this person set up this orphanage? I don't even think we ask them these questions when we get there. We just want to play with the children, but we might not even know the agenda, why this orphanage has been set up. So you ask very critical questions to ensure that we are, we have our antennas always high when it comes to the spaces that actually deal with children. Thank you very much. I'm assuming we're done with that row, right? This row. Sorry, you have just one last one there at the, hey. Two last ones from this row, right? Please, just two, so we can also take questions from this row. So let's start there, and then we'll finish with you. Yes, so I think, yeah, Win will help us with that row as we...
Okay.
Then we can keep our comments brief so we can get as many questions and comments. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Abdullahi Kamara from Sierra Leone. Just a brief one. I'm working with World Vision, by the way. Who do you refer to as the perpetrator in terms of trafficker or trafficking? Do you have to look at only the trafficker, or do you have to take into consideration the caregiver as well? Because if you only target the trafficker, then we are missing something somewhere. What happened in Sierra Leone? We have a law that stipulates that if you allow your child to be married off, then you are also a perpetrator. So we punish both the person that's married the child and then the individual that married off that child. I think that's when we help a bit. I don't know what happened here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think today we're going to talk about definition of terms, right? There's conflict resolution, it's talking about caregivers, we're talking about the trafficker and all. Thank you. Let's have, okay.
My name is Samsi Akalo, and my question is, what climate change in children's rights?
Sorry, say that again.
What climate changes children's rights?
What?
Climate changes in children's lives.
What climate
changes in children's rights?
In children's rights?
Yes.
Okay. Have we understood that? Please, please explain that a little bit. So we don't miss your questions. We can't afford to miss the questions from the children.
How climate change affects children's rights?
How climate change affects children's rights.
Yes.
Thank you. Clarity is very important, right? Clarity is very important. You know, clarity is very, very important. So briefly, let's move to this panel. We'll start here and then to, oh, you already have the mic. Okay.
Okay. I'm Father Damien from RAT Kenya, Religious Against Human Trafficking. I've seen your documentary, Jerry. It was very good. Were you able to identify cartels and powerful people? Because, like I know from experience in Mombasa, talking to law enforcement, they even get calls, as they say, from powerful people. So I'm just wondering, were you identifying cartels and people in power facilitating this? Because this type of thing can't go on, hundreds of girls getting on planes without that. I just wondered if you got any depth about the people behind what is going on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Father Damien. Yeah. Thank you so much. I think I left you out, right? Behind there, right? Okay, let's close up with that on this row.
My name is Esther.
Yes, Esther.
I would like you to answer this question. How does media and technology affect children?
How does media and technology
affect children?
Affect children. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. I know already Stephanie has a ton of answers on that already. You know, she's our advisor today, but of course all of us will speak to that. Thank you so much for that. Please, let's close with you on that.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. My name is Maureen Sharon. I work
we can hear you.
I work for NeuroKids Kenya. So I'm a caregiver. I want to comment towards Winnie's question in terms of rejection on disability. Yes, we as caregivers, we are willing to be with our kids, but it's not the rejection from our community. That's what is making some of the parents to give away their kids, you see. But I normally believe in one thing: if those parents are given an opportunity or any job that they can do while checking up on their kids, they can do more on their kids, more than the rejection that they can get in the community. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, because you're also speaking to the question that he was raising on the role of caregivers. So thank you for also answering, speaking to that issue. Here. Okay, so here and then you, okay?
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Thank you, panelists, for your
name.
Yes. Yeah, my name is Charlene Karungani. I'm a legal officer at Semanami. Mine is just to make brief comments that I feel that will add value also to the discussions, and to try to also answer the child about the role of climate, kindly.
Yes.
Let me begin by that, children first. Now, little one, first of all, I want you to know that climate also has a role in human trafficking, yeah? When the climate is harsh, for example, if there are floods around, yeah? If there is drought, you as a kid, you're expected to go to school, you've not eaten, so you will be lured, you know, somebody will come and tell you, you know, there's first of all, as they say, because of also poverty, they intertwine. So you'll be lured when somebody tells you there's a better opportunity, there's food, there's what in Nairobi, and that's how you get traffic. So it's your right under the Constitution, under Article 53. It provides that you know, the Constitution protects you as a child. So that is a violation in its own self. I hope you've understood me, and you can see me if you've not understood. Just to my brief comments on the legal part, I would like to encourage your organization, HAART. Through a conversation that we had with GIZ, I feel it's important as stakeholders. I believe the judiciary is one of your stakeholders. You can visit heads of station. Like in every court, there is a judicial officer who heads that particular station. So you can request to have bench sittings with other judicial officers, because most of them, I'll tell you for sure, they're not even conversant with the human trafficking aspect of it. So you can even request to have teachings with them, like sessions, as an organization, teach them. And also you can push for agendas, like when they go to meet, say, their seniors, like the Chief Justice Martha Koome, instead of treating trafficking as just a minor offense, we can begin by treating it from High Court. Once you are accused of human trafficking, it be treated as a matter of original jurisdiction from the High Court. So that one will be taken more seriously. My other comment, I'm glad that I appreciate teachers. Myself, my parents are teachers at some extent. So you as a teacher also has a role to play. I remember when we were growing, there used to be life skills every Friday. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Stephanie, I concur with you. So in school, life skills, just the way they used to teach us about AIDS, yeah? So they can also, part of Fridays, I think it used to be Fridays around there, teachers, you can inculcate that you teach, this is be part of your curriculum, yeah? So also again, as HAART, you can also visit schools and discuss with heads, okay, that it needs to be encompassed in your curriculum. So maybe now the heads, they'll share with the Ministry of Education. My other comment is for those who are parents. Okay. Basically, if you are very observant, and what even Stephanie said here, even in the kits for Kibera, the way you tell, you need to encourage your child from a very tender age. Yes. For example, like me, when I was growing up, you know, you grow, they give you a chance to become bold, courageous, they discuss some of these issues. So you bonding with your kid, showing them love, it is, you are able to study your kid and tell there's a difference. Somebody like me who was a very outgoing child, once you start seeing I'm withdrawing myself, what, those are some of the telltale signs that actually these kids get love from sympathizers. Traffickers, by their are good sympathizers. If you don't love me as a parent at home, and I meet maybe somebody outside there who is showing me love, then I'll be lured to it. So even it starts from home. The way they say charity begins at home, also home level is very, very important.
Thank you.
Yeah, just two more to conclude.
Okay, so make it brief.
Yes. And my second last, I've seen you, most of the discussions in HAART, you're focusing on only Marsabit and whatever. In Busia, I can shock you that Busia is also a county that you really need to find out what is happening. Each and every other day, there are alarming trends, alarming rates of high human trafficking there. So it's also a county that you need to bench watch. Lastly, you need to be, as Stephanie, as you put it, and everyone else, you need to be aware of the emerging new trends. I'm happy about the gentleman from Sierra Leone. I remember at one point I shared this with HAART, that marriage is also an new trend of human trafficking. How? Because of poverty, you get somebody who, is well off. This person, to you, they'll come in with a sincere intention, you know, they want a betterment of your child and etc. But in reality, when your child goes there, it becomes something else, right? So also marriage is also a new trend. So be observant on the new trends of human trafficking. Thank you very much. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. I think there's so much that perhaps, you know, there's so much that HAART is doing that we might not even have enough time to expound on it. And even on the counties that you had mentioned, I think Winnie did mention that HAART is already working in 15 counties. Maybe Marsabit is the one that is most visible. You know, I'm not sure about that, but they are working already in more than 15 counties in this country, right? So, and I know Winnie will, you know, will expound more on that. And even on the issue that you're talking about in terms of child marriage, again, she did mention in terms of some of the forms of and the trends of human child trafficking in Africa. So perhaps you'll also highlight that, you know, when I go back to the panel, so they can bring this conversation home. But I want to also appreciate you for speaking and responding to the question that was asked by one of our children in terms of how does climate change affect children. So you brought it out beautifully. And for the children in the room, I hope tumeelewa, sio venye climate change ina affect watoto. Wakati kuna maskini, saa zingine hakuna chakula. Unapata unaenda shuleni hauna chakula, na mtu anaweza kudanganya ati anataka kupata chakula kuza anajua hakuna chakula. Ama hata wale ambao wanaenda kutafuta maji mbali sana. Unaona? So unapata mtu anakuambia hata badala ya kwenda mbali sana kutafuta maji, niko na maji hapa. Na hiyo mambo ya kutokuwa na maji inaletwa na ukame. Na ukame ni part of climate change issues. Sio? Tumeelewa, si ndio? Tumeelewana hadi hapo, sio? Even though climate change unapata pia ina affect nini? Ina affect watoto. Sawa sawa? Aya, sawa sawa. I hope we are sharing these conversations on our social media platforms. Please, let's bring this home. Just 2 more. We go to this one at 3 more. Then we go back to the panel to close this conversation. Hi. Who's speaking? Yes, please.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
Now I feel like you've not appreciated the children, kabisa.
Say that again.
We have not appreciated these children. At that age, honestly speaking, ukiwa class 5, class 6, ulikuwa unajua maana ya conflict resolution? Did you even think about it? Did you even think about, someone else mentioned, I've forgotten, I think it's this wonderful young lady here.
Yes.
I think we should just give them a
Let's
clap
appreciate
first.
the children once again.
Yeah. Now, just a rejoinder to what my colleague has spoken, the one who just spoke right now, and also by the guidance of Beatrice, do our laws expound on the meaning of human trafficking?
Okay.
Do our laws leave room for more definitions of human trafficking so that we can be able to include other forms of human trafficking? So for instance, I have a case, just a random scenario I've created in my head. I don't know if it happens. We have a website advertising scholarships for children. As a diligent parent, you want the best for your child.
True.
You apply for the scholarship. You get a host family to host your child abroad, yeah? And then akifika kule, story ina change, yeah? Now, with that kind of trafficking, can our law accommodate, or rather, can such a survivor seek justice under that kind of scenario in our existing laws right now?
I see.
Maybe we could have, if the laws do not exist, or rather, if the laws do not have a flexible definition of trafficking, maybe you should think about that. Maybe you should leave room to include other forms of trafficking in it. That was the first one. The second one, just a recommendation, also rejoined. I think she spoke so much. She stole most of my points anyway. In addition to working with the judiciary, maybe you should also work with the police and other law enforcers in not identifying, but being able to collect the relevant evidence that will lead to successful prosecution of these traffickers. So in such a way that even if they appeal their sentences, the succession rate will be extremely low. So that is it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing that out. You know, sometimes we don't even think about those websites, and anytime you see free scholarships, you know, whether you're an adult, you're a child, you want to click on it. I mean, some of us are still like vulnerable to those free scholarships, you know, like those scholarships cut across age and they cut across class. What about our children? Thank you so much for bringing that out. So please, brief, just briefly, so that I can take on this side, and then the panel can respond to that. Yes. Help me out.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Mary from Semanami, and I have just a simple question to Winnie and the council. You talked of those children working in Nairobi and all that. So my question is, where do we draw the line between child trafficking and child labor? Because that is something even as the organization, sometimes we confuse. You go to on the field, you get a case, you think it's a case of human trafficking, then boom, it's a child labor case. And then talking of gaps that we have in the law of the land. I think for the children to be allowed to work, you must be an adult. That is, it means up to 18 years of age. And then according to the Employment Act, children between 13 and 16 years of age, they are allowed to work, quote unquote, the light work. So my question is, what is this light work, and how can we close the gaps between these laws? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Allow me to jump to this side and just take a maximum of 3. I think I only saw 3 hands. And then now we go back to the panel, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Whitney, AYP from Kamkunji. My first question is, how is human traffic different from migrant smuggling? And what is HAART doing about the influx of Karamojong girls in Kamkunji, from Uganda? Thank you.
Okay.
Hello. First of all, apologies because I'm unwell, so I'm short of voice, but I'm not short of words because I'm a vocalist. So my name is Trevor. I'm from Diplomats for Health in a Resilient Community, a community-based organization in Majengo. And to begin with, I want to give a shout out to Father Damien, because there are lots that you are handed to. Those questions are mine. So I think Beatrice, Father Damien tried to answer you by saying that we should not hide the perpetrators or the cartels, because there's a time that you were on KTN News, and I remember you spoke to the youths by saying that your perspective is that we earn a right to speak. So irrespective of the injustice that has been done to a child, a girl, or a boy, we should earn a right to speak. So my question was, how can we curb state, my voice is messed up. Don't laugh. My question was, how can we curb state-sponsored human trafficking agendas? Let's take an example with Mexico, Cuba, Havana, and Haiti. The story of Andres Bonayosi, Pablo Escobar, and El Chapo, all of them, they were human traffickers, drug smugglers, peddlers, but on different occasions, they were always released. Most frequently, they were always released. And the tendency of African countries, we tend to live like the first world countries and the second world countries. But my perspective is that youths in Africa, we are the current torchbearers. You feel me? What I'm trying to say is that the government has no rule or policy over human lives. Only God has policies over human rights. So when we speak of, I remember when you spoke of care providers. The first care provider is Allah, because I'm a Muslim and I believe that if you want to be taken care of, first of all, seek permission to the Most High. Okay? So there's a case that happened in Kamkunji, because I'm from Majengo. Last year, a boy called Master Wanjala, 22 years old, I think Njeri Mwangi, you heard of that story. He was a blood sucker, but sadly he was sucking kids' blood. So he murdered actually 12 children in the name of playing football matches. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine?
Okay.
I'm going to tell you a story. Okay. So let me ask you a question.
So,
how can you escape from a police cell after doing those silly, let me say silly, inhuman injustices to kids? That is my point. How can we curb the government-sponsored human trafficking? Because when the boy was asked, he said he's been funded by the government and being supported by the government. And I'm not sorry to say, Madam Beatrice, you cannot call us to this summit here and say that we should be sensitizing on mentioning names. I believe in one or another, in this summit, in this audience, we are all peace ambassadors, change agents, and when we get out from this house or building, we'll go and spread the message outside there. So I'm just trying to be factful about this.
Okay. Thank you so much. Also, I think also what the panel and even Madam Bridges was speaking to was clarity. So the way you've explained it, it shades more clarity, because sometimes it's good to speak with data as well that supports some of the statements that we claim, because we don't want anyone here to be sued for defamation, right? We don't want anyone to be sued for defamation.
Yes.
We're talking about scarce resources already. So thank you for that.
I'm not finished.
Okay, so
I'll be brief. I'm sorry.
So that we also allow the two remaining.
Yeah, I'll be
yes,
brief,
imagine, because we are so out of time.
So
and the panel has not responded.
So my comments are that, first of all,
just briefly.
Yeah, all the stakeholders and partnerships that come together in terms of advocacy for human trafficking, gender-based violence, and the negative life skill aspects. I just want to give a vote of thanks to all of them, because most of them, they're not doing the job because of the pay or the duties that are being overruled to them. It's because of passion.
True.
Speaking for myself, resilience described me. That's one of my descriptions, because I'm a victim of gender-based violence. I'm a victim of drug and substance abuse from Majengo. But through Good Samaritans, by Diplomats for Health in a Resilient Community, the community-based organization that I'm currently running on, is when I had a second thought on life and changes. So my emphasis is that congratulations and kudos to HAART Africa, because in one or another, they are bringing initiatives to Majengo, whereby I'm trying to cry out on these summits to be held in the most rural places.
I totally agree.
Because most of us, when we come out of here...
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Just allow others. Let's just, split the little time that we have, so that we can also hear from another person, because we already have your 3 questions, right? Thank you so much for honoring that. Let's appreciate him, please. Let's appreciate him. Thank you so much. Please make your comments brief. It's just you guys, right? Thank you so much. Make it brief so we can go to the panel. I hope we've been writing our questions down and we remember them, right? So,
Thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Magdalene Mwalali. I am a lawyer and a fellow at Teach for Kenya. need I mention that I'm also very passionate about children's rights, and I think this is a very important conversation, so big up. We need to have more and more of such. My question is, are there mechanisms in place to protect the whistleblowers? And in asking this question, I acknowledge the fact that not every whistleblower will be at a vantage position to deal with everything that comes at them. Essentially, you are ruining someone's, probably they are reaping big from that, and you don't know what they could do to you. Are there mechanisms to protect whistleblowers? Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So my name is Diana. I'm also from Teach for Kenya. Now, my question is, what is your opinion about the people who go to Saudi Arabia in those countries? They're enticed to go there for work, and then when they reach there, the situation is so different. Now, my question is, what is your opinion, and are there laws to protect them? And do they know these laws? And if they don't, what can be done so that people know before they go there?
Thank you so much. I think I've tried to capture everyone. Guys, we are so out of time. We've had to cut off so many other things. Please allow the panel to speak and then engage with the panel and engage with the HAART team. Please, after this, any other burning question that might arise, okay? And next time we'll ask HAART probably to give us 6 hours, okay? Next time, we'll ask them to give us 6 hours. But yes.
Yeah, as adults in the room, we appreciate that this is a child-centered discussion. So we have children in the room. So I'd like to recognize them and then release them for lunch. Is it okay? Then your answers, we shall take them to the schools. So we have children from Orbit Village. Could you stand and wave?
Let's appreciate them.
Thank you. Yay. We have children from Buruburu SDA. Could you stand and wave? Buruburu SDA. Then we also have children who came with their parents. Just wave where you are.
If you came with your parents,
thank you. So we will release the children and please continue.
Okay. Thank you so much. So you asked. Is it related? Please, 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 please. Yeah, because you are the last one. And then for the panel, please. I'll take it actually from the HAART representative as I invite the rest of the team. What was yours?
Okay. My name is Liz, also a fellow from Teach for Kenya. My question is to HAART. What helpline can we use to report cases of child trafficking?
Very important information. And once you share that helpline, guys, please share it on social media platforms. That is part of citizen action. So there are so many questions that have been leveled towards HAART, including the counties you work in, migrants, the case in Kamkunji that we were talking about. I'm not sure if you're aware of it. But from the questions that you've been able to recollect, or rather to collect while they were being asked, please, the floor is yours, and then we'll just pass the mic to the rest of us. So I don't repeat most of those questions because we were all attentive. Winnie.
Thank you. There was a question that was asked by a child, I remember. Where do we take children after they are rescued? So for HAART, we liaise with the children's officers and we commit them to a shelter. So the shelter gives us enough time to offer the rehabilitative services like medical services, counseling services, education. We also have vocational and skills training, and later on we conduct a home visit and possibly a reintegration where there is a possibility. So that is the way forward for children after the rescues. For what is my opinion about people going to Saudi Arabia? Personally, I do not have a problem with people migrating, and our stand at HAART is that migration is not a bad thing. People migrate because of economic reasons, especially the ones going to Saudi Arabia. The only thing that needs to be done extra is to inform them on where to seek help, how to seek help, and the procedures to follow before they migrate. We have the Ministry of Labor who have labor attaches in Saudi Arabia. They do not go to these offices. Some of them do not even have passport, they have fake documents. So what is the right procedure one needs to follow to ensure the moment they land to Saudi Arabia, they're well taken care of. The government, on its own directive, they have the bilateral trade agreements with different countries. There is one with Saudi Arabia on protecting the rights of migrant workers. But this information needs to be made public, so all of us as citizens of Kenya, or possibly migrant workers, we know what is enshrined in these documents. So migrating is not a bad thing. We are all migrants. I came from somewhere in Nyanza, came to Nairobi for work. I am a migrant, so migrating is not a bad thing.
Great.
And then there was a question about the difference between the so-called light work and labor exploitation or child labor. So from the African setup, when you are growing up, you are told to wash dishes, wash your uniform after school. So any work that do not deprive a child from their rights to education, right to socialization, to gain information is considered as light work. But there is a line where we draw. When you see a child who wakes up at 5 a.m. to go beg on the street, they're not learning. They do not even have the time to interact with their peers. They are subjected to very dangerous work that is called child labor, which is equal to child trafficking. We have children brought from other countries to Kenya to come and work as domestic servants. They're in their houses. We have people who are quite, I'll say, mean. They're beaten, they sleep for a few hours, they work throughout the day, they do not have leave days. That is called child labor exploitation. So that is an offense, and I believe that is a criminal act in Kenya. You can be easily charged for employing a minor in your house.
Thank you.
We have question about HAART working Marsabit. HAART has publication especially on the effect of drought in the arid areas. In Marsabit is one of them. We have other publications that does not necessarily tackle on the issue of Marsabit. I believe even quite a number of things that HAART has does about IBC. You have the legal handbook. We have one on shelters that is coming out soon. So HAART works in 15 counties, and I believe Busia is one of the upcoming counties that there is a number of trafficking cases. We saw recently there is a mining happening in Busia. We saw also minors being married off at the border, and some of them even being sold. So that is something, especially working within the borders. All the borders in the Kenya are quite a hotspot, so we can look into that.
Thank you very, very much. Stephanie or Agnes, do you want to go? Do you want? Okay, then let's have you, and then we go to Stephanie, and then we wrap up with the rest.
Mimi nitajibu mtoto. Kuna mtu aliuliza pale swali kuhusu ulemavu. Ningependa kumwambia ukiwa mlemavu haimaanishi hakuna kitu huwezi. Mlemavu ni kitu tu kipo, lakini kila mtu ana ile uwezo wa kufanya jambo. Haimaanishi ukiwa na ulemavu huwezi enda mahali ama kufanya kazi fulani. Kwa hivyo namwambia ulemavu si kitu mbaya, ni kitu ambayo ipo tu kama mfano. Kwa hivyo asife moyo, awe na bidii.
Nashukuru sana. Thank you so much. Stephanie.
I'm going to answer the question on how does media and technology affect children. Media and technology affect children in both positive and negative way. Especially in Kenya, there is lots of negative more than positive. As children, we need the media to study and learn more information that we need to know. Like for me, I watch documentaries about the world and everything. And then there is the other one, TikTok, social media and everything. Yes, they may have a good and positive cause to us, but they also have lots of negative. Like when children see their peers out there doing things that are not considered to be good, like let's say, I don't know how to phrase that answer, but the children posting their pictures or maybe wearing outfits that are not accepted in the society, there will be cyberbullying that will take place there, which will hurt the child emotionally. And also the other one is that due to research that I've done, social media can be improved in Africa, because you see in countries like China, they have the phones for children. They've been programmed, like when they go and search or look for things, and maybe TikToks, they're all about studies and things that can help us all develop. But in our African countries, it is rare to find it. This is because of the lack of funds from government to improve on the technological things and everything. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Let's appreciate our children. I just want my school fees back. I just want my school fees back. I was played. I want my school fees back. I didn't even know what cyberbullying was at that time. I just want my school fees back. That is my petition after here. You know, Jerry.
I'm also going back for a refund. I want to respond to several questions. One, the question of disability. I think for me, the way I see it, disability is, we have made people that are not like us feel that they have no place in this world. They need to find a place to live and do things, find their own way to do things. But they live among us. There are brothers, there are sisters, there are children, right? And I think we need to find a way where they shine in their other abilities, because they have other abilities. So the onus is on all of us, those who are around us that have a different ability, to make that shine and not make them feel that they're different from us, because we are different from them. We are also different, and if we are to talk about disability, even we have a disability because we don't have the abilities that they have. Okay? So I think we need to find a balance on that. Then somebody there, I think a teacher talked about parenting. We need to be very honest with our children about the world that we live in. A lot of parents believe that by shielding and protecting and telling our children as little as possible is protecting them. But I think that is a disservice to them, and it's living a lie. Because eventually they find out the truth, and that truth can take them the other way. The way that you are protecting them from is the way that they will go. So we need to be very honest with our children, give them whatever information they can handle at their age, not tell them everything, but at their age. And that way our children know where to go for the answers, because we as parents are honest with them and we give them the truth. Yeah. Then on the question of, I think the father asked, when I told my story, we believed that the guy we were following was working through a cartel, because he had been, like you said, he had been arrested many times, or he had been called upon many times. But there was a guy he used to call, and by the time he got to the police station, it would not stick, yeah? But maybe what made our story stick on him was that it was exposed. So by him having been arrested, we thought he was going to, tear the sack and spill who he pays, who he protects, how he gets the children through the border. But again, like I said, as a journalist, we can only do so much. When we tell these stories, we expect that the government or the police, the law enforcers, will then step in and fill in the gaps where we have, busted a hole. So I can't tell you for a fact that there was a cartel that we unleashed or that we were able to, I guess, expose. But my hope is that the law, even though I'm not too hopeful about that, is that they then followed through and, how do these children come across? Where do they stay? I mean, all those things that would be in between there that they would follow. So sadly, I can't tell you that we were able to expose a whole cartel. Then on the question on mechanisms to protect whistleblowers, I guess it depends with who you're telling your story. Who asked that question? It depends with who you're telling your story. You could go to the person that you're exposing or who is higher in the ranks of the story you're about to expose. They will harm you, or they'll do something to make sure that your story does not go far. So if you're going to the police, do you trust the police that you're telling? If you're going to a journalist, do you trust that journalist? If you're going to a lawyer, do you trust that lawyer? I think when it comes to whistleblowing, you need to find somebody that, depending with your story, is very, has a integrity. Their work speaks for them. It's not just someone you trust. It's someone who you know has done this before and their reputation precedes them. That they will take this story that you're taking to them with the seriousness that it deserves, and they will protect you. Some media houses will go with you and they will make sure that you will not, no one will know where that story came from. And even if they know, they will protect you. They will take you out from danger, they will move you, they will do whatever it takes to expose that story. So it really depends with who you're telling your story and the weight of the story in terms of whistleblowing. There are people who've been killed outright. Yeah? There are people who have been terrorized. They cannot work, they cannot leave their homes, or if they leave, they can't come back. They have had to change their lives completely. So you just have to be very careful who you're telling your story and why you're telling your story, to what end. You don't want to die with it, because sometimes it means you die with it, or that when you die because you're afraid you will die, that story you will not die in vain. Okay? And also telling the truth is, sometimes it comes at a big cost. Yeah? And you don't want, I mean, you know that telling this endangers your life. Okay? And it is not the person you're telling the story, it is not their 100% responsibility. It's being an activist. You're taking the risk to tell this because you want change. You want this to stop. Whatever it is that you're exposing, you want it to stop. You want it to end. So you're taking the risk yourself. So it's working together with people who you know how serious this is and will do something about it and will try and keep you safe. And of course, you will not expose yourself by saying, unajua niliambia kina nani, or you will not do a TikTok and then expose yourself, because even you can expose yourself. And even those who are trying to protect you, once you expose yourself at that level, there's not much that they can do. You've got to be careful with your information.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's all the questions I can answer. And I will have to step out shortly because I have another meeting. So if
we're actually finishing with our Strategic Litigation Council. Please bring this home.
Okay, I'd just like to pick from where Njeri left. We have the Witness Protection Agency in Kenya and a witness protection law. However, be careful with whatever Njeri said, because at the very least, it is your life that will be on the line. And the Witness Protection Agency, as much as it's there in the law, there's quite a bureaucracy, and the protection measures might not be available for everyone. So just be careful if you intend to be a whistleblower. And I'll give an example of the latest BBC documentary that we saw around tea farm workers, which is a form of labor exploitation. And I saw an article where an activist was killed for it, or he died in mysterious circumstances. We don't know what happened. So to the question around state-sponsored human trafficking, now I understand the context, and I am still hesitant to call it state-sponsored human trafficking, because just the same way as traffickers are bad people who exist within our society, these traffickers are there in churches, they are there in the society, they are there in community, they are there in government. So they are just bad people in government, because I truly believe, as much as I have many quarrels with the government, I truly believe that they have not set aside a budget to facilitate human trafficking. So those are just bad elements in government facilitating that, covering up for people taking bribes and letting human traffickers go away. And human trafficking, as HAART would tell you, is very complex and is a transnational organized crime. Mm-hmm. And busting organized crime is quite challenging to deal with, and involves many factors. So that is where those aspects come in of cartels and how you're able to reach one person and not the others. To the extent of caregivers, these are also covered within our laws, within the Counter-Trafficking Act, and the spectrum of who can be convicted is if you played any small role towards contributing to the human trafficking, jurisprudence has evolved to hold you accountable for whatever act you played that contributed to the human trafficking. And now to reiterate the difference between child trafficking and child labor, because some of it is allowed within the context that Winnie was saying, but if you are interrogating and what makes it child trafficking, it will be the aspect of exploitation, perhaps remuneration. Is the child aware of what they are doing? And in whatever context they are working, are their best interests being respected, their rights promoted, and all their basic needs catered for? If those elements are missing, then it will be an aspect of child labor, which is a form of child trafficking.
Thank you.
There are two more questions I wanted to respond to.
Real quick.
That were
we
very
only have
important.
like 3 minutes to leave the room.
Sure. On expansions of the definitions for human trafficking and child trafficking, I would say that the laws as we are comprehensive in definition, and even the example that she gave fits within what is already stipulated in the law. The other thing that I wanted to clarify was, if we take this child trafficking or counter trafficking to be only from the level of the High Court and above, it might be quite dangerous for victims and challenging to access justice, because High Courts are not everywhere, as we know, and magistrate courts are closer to the people. So I think the law as it is would be good, and we need just a little more effort on implementation. Thank you.
Guys, help me appreciate this panel. I have nothing to add. Help me appreciate HAART for convening this meeting. We can do better than that. So after here, we're going to go to the first floor. That is where our lunch is being served, and we'll actually rush there because they're about to close. But I'd just like to remind you, even as we leave this room, our hashtag, Act Against Child Trafficking. You've listened to so much, you've soaked in so much. I'm going to actually track this hashtag. If we don't even have 30 to 50 tweets, then I think we're doing badly. Please, Winnie, please tell us our call to action. Jerry, tell us our call to action. And then we all come in front here real quick for a photo. Dragisha, do we have a minute to take a group photo as we leave? Oh, I see. Okay, fine. Jerry, what is our call to action?
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for waiting. First of all, I'd like to remind you we do have a helpline. That's 0780-211-113. 0780, okay, 211-113. That's the helpline that we use for reporting cases of human trafficking. Thank you so much once again for waiting this long. Enjoy your lunch.
Okay, please, Kujenia Pambele, please, let's come in front here real quick for a group photo as we step out. So you come with your belongings. After the photo, we're just stepping out. You come with your belongings in front here. So we won't even move. Let's just come in front here. Thank you so much. You've been such an amazing and engaging audience. Asanteni sana, 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 sana. Real quick.
Can you tell them what the restaurant is?
Yeah, so the restaurant is first floor, Johari. Sorry? So you get the voucher at the door. You get the voucher at the door as you exit. Guys, tujipange, let's just line up real quick. Let's line up real quick. Thank you, thank you. Let's line up real quick. Okay, let's line up real quick. Are we all here? Are we all here? Are we all here? Gosh, we can't even fit all of us. Can we grab chairs for some? Winnie, do we grab chairs for some so we can fit? Real quick, tafadhalini. If we can do this under a minute, that would be awesome. If you can help me out, we do this under a minute. That will be awesome. Where are the placards? We would have given them, so we hold them. Where are they? Where are they? Where are they? Where are they? Oh, yeah. Let's push back so that you guys can sit. Imagine just come and sit. Oh, yeah. Just come and sit. Okay, some can sit. Let's put the placards up. Thank you very, very much.
King of Africa.
Okay. Okay, to the Zoom audience, thank you so much. If you're still listening, asante sana. I love the arrangement. we have everyone in? The two of you, I can't see you here. I can't.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Ha 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 ho ho ho. Couple rubber band, couple stop then. Couple rubber band, couple stop then. Up inna the street we a drop dead. J.O.P. We a go fuck up a party tonight. You just watch. Tonight me feel I spend some cash. Cool and events, just watch. If a Givenchy shoes, then the belt must match. Gucci loafers with a tough top. Money no fi call thicker than a blood clot. Who you know, I'm in the with a touch back. When a bad sound clear, we say pull it up back. Everybody shout, yeah, 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 yeah.
Thank you so much. Pick about past the door. Let's meet on the first floor, Johari. The restaurant is Johari. Enjoy your lunch. Asante sana sana.
Dame tu cosita. Ay, dame tu cosita. Dame tu cosita. Ay, dame tu cosita.
Okay, guys. We took our vouchers.
Ay, toma. Cosita, dame tu cosita. Ay, toma. Cosita. Dame tu cosita. Ay, toma. Cosita, dame tu cosita. Ay, toma. Cosita.
Dámela bien rica. Vámonos pa' acá pa' la esquinita. Ok. Dámela que está bien bonita. Mamacita. Dámela pa' aquí, dame pa' llevar. A mí me gusta como tú lo manejas. Muévete ese bam bam y grita.
Bienvenidos a la cripta.
Guys, let's step out. Let's have the conversation at the restaurant.
And human trafficking is $1 billion industry. We must save our children from this nightmare, from this hell. Because our children, God's children, are not for sale.
It's like something doing me body, yeah. Are you looking for me, my body, yeah. It's like I'm looking forward away to you. Every time you try me, come close, let me breathe this. Ain't but you can't go with me now. The way you do it so don't call me mama. I really didn't want to be so ain't but you can't go with me now. It's like there's something running down below. When you do me like this and I really wanna say this, they just go shut up. Oh you know why it's still we go inside that way. Cause if you want it, I'm like you know. I gotta put that on my shit on. I'm gonna let you know.